For thousands of years, we have told the same story. It doesn't matter if you are in ancient Mesopotamia, medieval Europe, or the highlands of Peru. The story is always about them. The others, the watchers, the beings that are not us. We have called them gods, devas, jinn, spirits, aliens, angels, and demons. We describe them as beings of light or shadow, entities that can walk through walls, appear out of thin air, and know things that no human could possibly know. We have filed these stories under mythology. We have filed them under religion. We treat them as metaphors for our own internal struggles. But what if we are wrong? What if these aren't ghost stories? What if they are simply visitors? Imagine for a second that the spiritual realm isn't a fairy tale, but a matter of geography. Imagine that the heavens aren't up in the sky, but right here, layered on top of us, separated by a barrier so thin, it is invisible to the naked eye. Today, we are going to crash two massive worlds together, ancient theology and cutting-edge theoretical physics. We are going to see what happens when you take the concept of angels and run it through the framework of the multiverse. The result is a startling new vocabulary for the supernatural, a framework where miracles are just a higher form of physics that we haven't learned yet. To understand where this idea comes from, we have to rewind the clock. We need to go back before the Large Hadron Collider, before Einstein, all the way to the 13th century, and a man named Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas was a theologian, but he thought like a systems architect. He was obsessed with the hierarchy of reality. He proposed something called the Great Chain of Being. Picture a ladder. At the bottom you have rocks and dirt, pure matter, no consciousness. Then plants, alive but not thinking. Then animals. Then humans, a messy, complicated hybrid of physical matter and non-physical soul. But Aquinas argued that the latter didn't stop at us. He theorized the existence of separated intelligences. These were beings of pure software, pure form. They didn't have the lag of a physical body. They didn't have to learn things sequentially like we do, reading a book page by page. They downloaded knowledge instantly. They were beings of pure intellect, existing apart from the material drag of our world. For centuries, this was just a nice philosophical idea. And then, Isaac Newton came along and locked the door. Newtonian physics turned the universe into a clock. It was a machine. It was predictable. If you couldn't weigh it, measure it, or calculate its velocity, it didn't exist. The materialist worldview built a prison around our reality. The walls were thick, and they were made of cause and effect. There was no room for separated intelligences. There was no room for ghosts. The universe was a closed room, and we were the only ones in it. That certainty lasted for 200 years, until the early 20th century, when we found a crack in the wall. We zoomed in. We looked at the tiniest building blocks of reality, photons and electrons, and we found that the machine wasn't a machine at all. It was a blur. We discovered quantum mechanics. Experiments showed that particles don't exist in a single state. They exist in a superposition, a ghostly cloud of probability where they are simultaneously here, there, and everywhere. They only snap into a definite position when they are observed or interacted with. This shattered the clockwork universe. It told us that reality is fluid. It told us that the solid ground beneath our feet is actually a shimmering sea of potential. Suddenly, the prison door was ajar. If matter itself can be in two places at once, what else is possible? This question led physicists to the theory of everything, and eventually to string theory. Here is the problem physicists were trying to solve. The math for the big stuff and the math for the small stuff hate each other. They don't work together. To make them play nice, string theory suggests that the fundamental particles aren't dots. They are tiny, vibrating loops of string. But for the math of string theory to work, you need room for the strings to vibrate. A lot of room. 3 dimensions aren't enough. The math demands 10 or even 11 dimensions. So where are they? Where are these extra 6 or 7 dimensions? The theory says they are compactified. Think of a garden hose stretched across a football field. From the blimp cam, it looks like a one-dimensional line, but if you are an ant crawling on that hose, you know there is a second dimension, the circumference. You can go around it. String theory suggests that every point in our 3D space actually has 6 tiny, curled-up dimensions attached to it. Too small for us to see, but real enough for the math of the universe to function. This leads us to the brain world hypothesis. This is where it gets sci-fi. This theory suggests that our entire universe, everything we see and know, is stuck to a giant membrane, or a brain, floating in a higher dimensional space called the bulk. Think of our universe as a sheet of paper floating in a room. We are 2D stick figures drawn on that paper. We can move left, right, forward, and back. But we cannot move up off the paper. We are trapped on our brain. But the theory suggests there could be other sheets of paper, other universes floating just millimeters away from us in the bulk, but separated by a dimension we cannot access. Now, let's combine Aquinas with string theory. What if the separated intelligences aren't spirits? What if they are inhabitants of the bulk? What if angels are simply beings that have access to that 4th or 5th spatial dimension? To understand what that would look like to us, we have to look at the flatlander analogy. Imagine a 2D world. Flat people living on a flat table. They have no concept of up. Now imagine you, a 3D human, hover over their world. You are invisible to them. You are above their reality. If you stick your finger through their world, what do they see? They don't see a hand. They see a circle, a cross-section of your finger, suddenly appearing out of thin air. It grows, it shrinks, and then it vanishes. To them, that is a miracle. To you, it's just physics. If you spoke to them, your voice would seem to come from inside their own heads, because you are vibrating the space they live in from a direction they can't point to. You could see inside their locked rooms. You could see inside their body. You could see their past and their future as a single layout on the table. Now, apply this to the Bible. Angels appear in locked rooms. They appear and disappear instantly. They know the future. They speak directly into the minds of prophets. In a multiverse model, these aren't violations of natural law. They are exactly what you would expect from a being operating from a higher dimension, intersecting with our lower one. They aren't breaking the laws of physics. They just have a higher clearance level than we do. This also offers a fascinating non-moral framework for demons. If we accept that there are other dimensions, other brains, we have to accept that they vibrate at different frequencies. What if good and evil are just ancient words for resonance and dissonance? Imagine a being from a dimension that is harmonically compatible with ours. When it intersects with our world, it brings order, it brings clarity, it brings healing. We call that an angel. Now imagine a being from a dimension that is chaotic, entropic, or physically incompatible with our structure. When it intersects with our brain, it causes disruption. It causes sickness. It creates mental fracturing. We call that a demon. It might not even be evil in a human sense. It might just be cosmic radiation with a consciousness. Of course, this is all a thought experiment. We haven't proven the multiverse exists. We haven't caught an angel in a particle trap. But what this theory does is provide a bridge. It allows us to look at the oldest human claims, that we are not alone, that there are watchers, that there is a realm beyond this one, and treat them not as superstitions, but as data points. It suggests that the universe is a much more crowded house than we thought. And those things bumping in the night? They might just be the neighbors. I want to know where your mind goes with this. Does the idea of extra dimensions make the spiritual world feel more real to you? Or does it strip away the magic? Let's argue about physics and theology in the comments. And if you want to keep exploring the edges of reality with us, click that subscribe button. We're just getting started.